Grab yourself a coffee and pull up a seat because today I'm teaching you how to play Peanut Butter Belly Time from Nerdy Nuts. I'm Mark Maya and this is Board Game Coffee. Before we get started, I wanted to let you know that all the components seen in this video are of the prototype version of the game and do not necessarily represent the final product. With that said, let's get back to the video. In Peanut Butter Belly Time, you play as peanut butter makers for the Nerdy Nuts company and are tasked with concocting some pretty crazy peanut butter flavors like chocolate marshmallow, banana cookie, and cotton candy apple. Now that's nutty. Peanut Butter Belly Time is a 2 to 7 player card drafting set building game that plays in roughly 15 to 30 minutes. In this video, I'll be focusing on the base set of rules to get you started. But if you're interested in adding a little more flavor to your experience, hang around till the end of the video where I'll go over the rules for the special orders variant. And as always, if there's a specific section of this video that you're looking for, check out the index in the description below. To play the base game, you won't be using these special order cards. These are only used during the special orders variant that we'll go over at the end of this video. So for now, you can just return them to the box. Alright, first thing you're going to do is shuffle up all your jar cards and place them face down. Now, deal out 6 cards to each player. Next, collect all the ingredient tokens and lay them out on the table face down. Then give them a good shuffle to mix them up. And that's it for the setup. Now, before we learn how to play, let's take a closer look at the cards and what everything means. There are 3 different categories of cards. Cookie, indicated by this blue background, candy, indicated in pink, and finally, fruit, with its green background. The picture on the top portion of the card represents one of 9 available ingredients that you can add to your peanut butter creation. The bottom portion of the card is the jar's label. Here you'll see the name of the peanut butter mixture you're making, the ingredients needed to make it, and how much you'll score each time that set of ingredients shows up in your jar. Alright, now that you know how to read the cards, let's learn how to play Peanut Butter Belly Time. A game of Peanut Butter Belly Time is made up of 3 rounds, with each round consisting of 6 turns that players take simultaneously. Each turn is broken up into 3 simple steps. Choose a card, play a card, pass your cards. Now let's break each of those down for you in a little more detail. The first thing you're going to do when a turn starts is secretly select one of the cards from your hand and place it face down so no one else can see what you've selected. Once everyone has selected a card and placed it face down in front of them, it's time to play the card you selected. When playing a card, you have 3 options. You can either start a new jar, add to an existing jar, or replace the label on a jar you already have. To start a new jar, just simply place the jar you've selected face up in front of you. Now, on your first turn, you won't have any other jars in front of you, so starting a new jar will be your only option. But as the game continues, you can start as many new jars as you want. When adding an ingredient, simply tuck the card you selected behind a jar you already have in front of you, making sure the picture of the ingredient sticks out the top like so. This way, everyone can always see what ingredients you've added to your jar. When adding ingredients to a jar, you're going to want to make sure that you're matching the set of ingredients listed on the label. Because for every set of ingredients in the jar that matches that jar's label, you score this many points. Now, technically you can put whatever ingredients you want in a jar, but ingredients that don't help you complete a set listed on the label don't score you any points. Another thing to keep in mind when adding ingredients are these symbols here. These don't indicate a single ingredient like the other symbols do. Instead, they refer to a category that matches their color. pink for candy, blue for cookies, and green for fruit. So, when completing sets that use these symbols, any ingredient with a matching colored background can be used. The other thing you can do with the card you selected is replace the label of an existing jar. To do this, simply place the new label on top of one of your jars so that it covers the bottom portion of the card. This is a great way of earning additional points using sets you've already collected. Now, instead of this jar scoring me 3 points, it scores me 5 because the ingredients in the jar still match the set indicated on the new label. The last thing players do after they've played a card in one of the 3 ways I've mentioned is pass the cards they're holding to the player on their left. Once that's done, repeat the same 3-step process. Choose a card, play a card, pass your cards. Continue to do this until there are no cards left to pass. Once all cards have been played, we move on to the second round. At which point you'll hand out 6 new cards to each player from the main deck and repeat the same 3-step process. Choose a card, play a card, pass your cards. The only difference is, when you pass your cards during the second round, you pass them to the player on your right and not your left. When you play your last card in the second round, move on to the third round and deal out another 6 cards to each player as you have in previous rounds. But this time when you pass your cards, you're passing them once again to the player on your left. Once everyone at the table has played all their cards in the third round, the game is over and we move on to final scoring. But before I explain how that works, there is one last thing I would like to bring to your attention. These are rainbow labels. For all intents and purposes, jars with these labels function just like any other jar, with one little bonus. Whenever you play a card with a rainbow label, you draw one of these face-down mystery ingredients at random, reveal it, and add it to any one of your jars. Adding a standard ingredient token to a jar will count toward completing the set listed as long as it matches what's depicted on the label. This Unicore Dust token is a rare find, but if you do manage to pull one, you can use it as any one ingredient of your choice. Pulling one of these soul tokens will add 1 point to any jar you add it to. But if a jar ever has 2 soul tokens on it, that entire jar is ruined and will score you 0 points at the end of the game. So careful where you place that salt. When the game ends, players add up the total of all their jars. The player with the most points wins. Let's walk through an example, shall we? This label tells me that I score 5 points for every set of Moreos and bananas that I've added to this jar. So, since I have 2 sets of bananas and Moreos, I score 10 points, 5 per set. This remaining banana doesn't score me anything because it doesn't fit into a set. But if I had just 1 additional Moreo in this jar, I would have scored an additional 5 points, bringing me to a total of 15 points. And if I had a salt token on this jar, I would get 1 extra point. But remember, 2 salt tokens in the same jar would score me 0 for the whole jar. And that would just be the saddest thing ever. So, applying those rules, add up the total of all your jars, calculate the total, and determine the winner. In the case of a tie, the player with the most jars is the winner. If there's still a tie, then the player with the most ingredients in 1 jar is the winner. And that's all you need to know to play a base game of Peanut Butter Belly Time. But if you want to add a little more challenge to your game, I'll be going over the rules for the special order variant now. The special order variant adds the ability to fill orders to earn more points. To include this variant, simply set up the base game as you normally would. Then, in addition, shuffle this stack of order cards, lay it face down in the center of the table, and reveal the top 5 cards of the deck to create a row of special orders. Order cards work differently than your normal jar cards. They're never kept in your hand and can only be used to replace existing labels. Before you pass off your hand, you may take any order card from the special orders row that matches the ingredients you have in one of your jars. So for this example, this jar here requires 1 chocolate, 1 marshmallow, and 1 wafer. If we look here at the jars I've been building, you'll see I have a jar with those exact same ingredients. This means that I can take this order card from the center and place it over this jar's label, like so. Now at the end of the game, this jar will score me 9 points instead of the 4 it would have scored me before. The big difference with these special orders is that you can only score each jar once. So where you would normally score the value shown here each time this set appeared in your jar, special orders will only score the value shown here one time, regardless of how many times the set appears in your jar. Salt can still be used to add 1 point, or reduce that jar's points to 0 if you add 2, just like they do in the regular game. If multiple players are eligible to claim the same order card at the same time, no one claims it, and the card is discarded to the bottom of the order deck. It is allowed to replace an order card you already have with a new order card, as long as the jar has the ingredients matching the new label. The order card being replaced is returned to the bottom of the order deck. And if you have multiple jars that match multiple order cards, you can take more than one. Once you've passed your cards to the other player, fill in any empty gaps in the special card row so that there are always 5 cards to choose from at the start of each turn. And that's it. I hope this video helps, and I hope you enjoy playing Peanut Butter Belly Time. See you next week. Thanks for joining us. If you like this video and you want to see more, subscribe to our channel. It's the best way to keep up to date with everything we do here at Board Game Coffee. But if you want to see more right now, we got plenty of videos to choose from. And if that's not enough, follow us on Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter. I'm Mark Maya, and this is Board Game Coffee. And remember, have fun, keep gaming, be social. See you next week.